What's up, guys? It's the Jacks from Jacked and Lean out of Jacked and Lean Gym. We're back with another episode in our series. It's not your program, it's your form that's fucking up your results. Today we're talking chest growth and different mistakes you're making while pressing that is limiting your chest growth and how to fix them the Jacked and Lean way. Let's get to it. The first issue you're making with your pressing that could be limiting your chest growth is that you're excessively tucking the elbows while pressing. Some of you might come from a powerlifting background or have been taught in high school football that you need to press with your elbows super tucked to protect your shoulder and move max load. For bodybuilding or going your chest, that is not the goal. What I want you to do, see how Jack's elbows are super tucked, is actually let these elbows float out just a little more naturally. This is gonna go against so much of what you guys have heard, but trust me, this will absolutely blow up your chest because now his elbows are better in line with the fibers of the chest that we're trying to work versus excessively tucked, which is gonna put a lot of load into his shoulder. So he's gonna let these elbows float. You don't need to jam them out. Just kind of let them softly float to what's comfortable. A general rule of thumb is that I like to have your elbows in line with the handle of the implement that you are working with. So if this was in more of a neutral grip, sure, elbows tucked, but then I would argue, is that the best position for chest growth? So typically it's more overhand pronated position, letting those elbows float, and then as he presses, he's also gonna think about just a little bit of pressure through his pointer finger here, and then just ride that out. This will be an absolute game changer for your guys' pressing. Just make sure you don't use too much load because you're in a slightly more vulnerable position here. The second mistake we see on chest pressing that's limiting your growth is you're just creating too big of an arch. So Jack, let's show them what I mean. So you'll see people who set this bench up at like an incline to try to train a little more of the upper pec, right? And then they end up creating this massive arch, usually because they just want to move too much load. And if this is what you're doing, just do a fucking flat dumbbell press, because if you notice, this is the exact angle position Jack is in right now. But what I want you guys to do to fix this is to bring this rib cage down just a little bit more. You're gonna instantly feel that load go right where you want it. And then another little hack is if you have a machine with a bar out in front, or if you're doing dumbbells, you can put a little box out front here to help bring this foot up. As you can see, it puts his pelvis in a better position to help put that rib cage where we want it. So if you guys are doing like incline pressing, just be in the incline that you want to train. Stop trying to arch too much to move more load. If that's the case, again, just do something like a flat press or a flat dumbbell. If you're gonna do a shoulder press, just do a shoulder press. The third mistake we see being made on chest pressing that's limiting your growth is over retracting the shoulder blades. Jack, let's show them what I mean. So back to kind of point number one, in the powerlifting style of bench pressing, people like to overly retract their shoulder blades, or at least that's what they think is gonna be good for shoulder stability. Instead, what I want you to do is to depress those shoulders a little bit. The lat acts as a great shoulder stabilizer when done right. Now, you don't want to depress so much that it tucks your elbows. That goes back to point one. If you still want them to be able to float just a little bit. So just enough tension so the elbows can still float, but your shoulders are a little more depressed. They centrate in the socket a lot better. It's gonna let that shoulder blade move more authentically as well, which lets you get a better stretch at the bottom and a better contraction at the top. One cue I like to use for people to get to this position is, Jack, go and stand up, is I have people put their arms out in front of them. And I put my finger right below their shoulder blade, and I say, push my finger down with your shoulder blade. And as you can see, Jack sits into his lats just a little bit. If you go too hard, it will rotate you and tuck that elbow. But what you see a lot of people do is they'll start to retract and almost like pinch the fingers between the shoulder blades, okay? So what you wanna do is think about pushing the shoulder blades down just enough to centrate that shoulder and then slide through that slot. The fourth issue we see when it comes to chest pressing that's limiting your chest growth is people pressing from an inhaled position, a poor rib cage position. So most people, because they don't know how to breathe properly during a rep, which I've talked about a million times on social media, they get stuck in this inhaled and kind of collapsed position, which is putting a lot of tension on the front side of the shoulder. So as Jack presses now, because his rib cage is kind of collapsed, this front of the shoulder is just taking a ton of load. And this is why you guys are gonna get pain and even running down kind of into the bicep here. What I want you to do instead is to drop the shoulders just a little bit, not the elbows float, all these things we've talked about up to this point. Now Jack also has a nice, as he tries to steal my shirt, closes his mouth, inhales through his nose as he comes down. You can see this rib cage is expanding and externally rotating. When you're exhaled, your rib cage collapses a little bit. That's not a very good position to press from. It's not gonna also allow those chest fibers to stretch on the way down. Instead, by inhaling, you're gonna expand and externally rotate that position. pause here. So you're in a better position to press him. You can see his shoulder is in a more centrated position. He's able to better slide through pec. That pec's taking all the load. He's not excessively arching like we talked about a couple points ago. And from this position, he's in a nice strong position to just ride it out. So do not confuse this inhaled position of the rib cage with a massive rib flare. That goes back to the excessively arching, but a nice soft tense in the midsection, inhaling up to the lungs here so that he puts himself in a better position to press from is not only going to limit shoulder pain, but increase your chest growth. The last two mistakes you're making on your pressing that's limiting your chest growth are pretty similar in nature. The first one is pretty obvious. It's something we see every international chest day on a Monday, and that's guys just lifting with their ego, using way too much load. And for the sake of not injuring Jack here, I'm not going to try to demonstrate that, but just lighten the load, guys. It's not a fucking powerlifting meet. You're trying to grow your chest. Make sure the muscle's doing the work 100% of the rep. All right. The second issue we see is that people are launching off the bottom, typically because the load is too heavy. And so on the way down, they snap out of the bottom. That's going to put a ton of strain on the connective tissues of the shoulder. It's going to unload the pec, much like we talked about during our squatting video. Just make sure at the bottom of the rep, nice inhale on the way down, you're sliding through the muscle. That way, as you press now, instead of just driving it super hard and recklessly, think about a little pressure through your palm, feel that pec grab, a little bit of pointer finger pressure, and then just slide it out. On the way down, you're not just controlling the free fall, you're allowing that elbow to slide through a slot, that pec takes the load, you are allowing the weight to come down. It is not, again, just a free fall where you're putting the brakes on at the bottom. And by doing that, you're going to be in a better position with more tension based on all the other cues I've given you already to then just grab tension on the pec and slide it through. So that's a wrap on the 6 mistakes you're making while pressing that's limiting your chest growth. Remember guys, it's not a fucking powerlifting meet. You're trying to grow and sculpt your chest. So make sure that muscle is working 100% of the rep. And instead of looking for another program and blaming your lack of chest growth on the program, you better go check your form first. It's not optional, it's the foundation. So stay tuned for more episodes of this series coming at you from Jack's and the Jacked and Lean Gym.